The learning outcome of this module is to understand ways to create your team or your group or your organization's rules of engagement or standards which you'll uphold. Let's get started.
We're going to talk about the action steps to define your group, team, or company's rules of engagement, or the standards that you will uphold. The first thing is to understand defining guiding principles. High-performing teams agree on the standards that they'll hold themselves to in order to achieve their goals. Some questions that guiding principles answer include: what are the rules governing our team? How do we make decisions? What are the commitments we will make and keep on an ongoing basis? Some examples of good team principles include: we will always prioritize the needs of the customer, or we will not create unnecessary bureaucracy, or we will strive to innovate in everything we do, or we will hold effective meetings where we focus on making decisions, one team member talks at a time, there's a healthy spirit of debate, and no blame or personal attacks. All of those are examples of good team principles. Guiding principles don't always tell you what to do, but they inform how your team works together. So whether a team is new or fully established, you should really work to create and agree on some guiding principles to move forward. So next, how do you develop guiding principles? Guiding principles are best created collaboratively with your team. So use a flip chart or a whiteboard and generate ideas from the team in total. Ask each other things like, what's okay to do on this team? What's not okay to do? How do we have efficient and productive meetings? How do we address agreements and disagreements or arguments? How do we make decisions? List as many ideas as you can about how this team should work and what you want to agree on, and agree not to evaluate them until everything's been listed. And once you've made this list, identify which principles are the most important and which ones all team members can agree to support. Because if you start having principles that not everyone agrees to support, it's highly likely that they won't be adhered to and they won't be successful. Finally, make sure you put the principles to work. Once your team guiding principles have been created, don't lose momentum by sticking them on a shelf. Teams who create guiding principles and never refer back to them, you've really wasted time. The true value of guiding principles comes from their everyday use to help make tough decisions, to evaluate priorities, to resolve interpersonal disagreements, etc. To hardwire your team's principles, at the beginning of each meeting, briefly review your guiding principles. Ask each team member to commit to following them and to constructively point out when ground rules are not being followed. If you find, for example, if you find one of the principles are being violated, someone can say, hey, can we review principle number 3 to make sure we're following it? Or another approach is to choose one principle per meeting that you have, and then have members evaluate it and ask themselves, how do we do? Did we follow this principle correctly? Did we really have an effective meeting? Or did we handle agreements or disagreements effectively? And then what can we do differently to make it better?
We hope you found this module on creating team guiding principles useful. Remember, there's a complete transcript of this video below, and there's downloadable takeaways that you can use offline. Also, leave us a comment about how you're better at creating team guiding principles today, or leave us a comment about how we can make this section better. Thanks.